Hello everyone, it's so great to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about everything I read in the month of January. Okay, so January. January was kind of it was an okay reading month. I didn't get as much read as what I would normally read. Not sure why. A few of the books bogged me down a little bit, and that was just more because I think I was reading for the vlogs. I was reading, so I was being much more in depth with making sure I didn't miss anything, that kind of thing. So I think going forward into February, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to have a bit of a different approach. But what I thought we'd do is we would just go through and talk about all of the challenges that I am trying to meet every month, just so, you know, we see if I covered it or not. So the first one is my 2026 series challenge, which of course I only have to put one book in the upper part, and I did read that, and that was Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. So I put that one up in my January selection, but then I had two more that went into the lower selection, and that was Cibola Byrne, and that's the fourth book in the Expanse series by James Asai Corey, and The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman, which is the fourth book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And I read all three. Okay, so I made what I had planned for that challenge. Okay, so my next challenge, which was my Goodreads choice challenge, and in that case I had three books that were picked. One was Dissolution by Nicholas Binge, which came under the science fiction category, and I read that. I had Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister under Mystery and Thrillers, and I read that. And the last one was Horror by Rachel Harrison, Play Nice, and I read that. So I managed to read all three that I had planned to read, and so very happy with how that came out. So then the other challenges that I've decided to do are challenges that were created by a couple of other people, and I know that when they're approaching the challenges, they're doing it where they fill them out ahead of time and the books are planned ahead of time. That's not how I'm doing them. So the first one is the Mystery Thriller Bingo Challenge by Alexis Fully Booked, and in this particular case, I have decided to fill in the challenge as I read. So once I know I've read whatever books I've read, I look at them and think, can I fit them in this challenge? Okay, so these are not the books. Like once I pick my TBR, I might not read my entire TBR, so I don't put them in this bingo card until I've read them. So I actually have to read these particular books. So in this case, I managed to fill three spots. So the first one is All That We See or Seem, and that is Hidden Identity or Past. And the main character in that one, her identity is kind of hidden and she does have a past. So I thought that fit perfectly. And then on the bottom two, so the far left, would it be left? Yeah, far left is Amateur Sleuth main character. So that's definitely Finley Donovan. I don't know if she's a sleuth, but she ends up being kind of by accident, okay? But I thought that fit perfectly into that one. And then the fourth one over, the husband did it. And like, come on, Famous Last Words, the husband did it? Yeah, like the husband really did do it. Now, in this particular case, it wasn't a death that he did. Well, it was kind of, but yeah, it was a bit twisted. So, but the husband definitely did it. So I thought it fit that one. So those are three that are covered already on the bingo sheet, and I was really, really happy about that. So we have that. Then next I have the 2 buzzword challenges, and I'll put them both up. I decided to go with the lined version of them. I just kind of preferred it this time around so that I could put in the titles of the books, little book cover next to it. So I again am filling them in as I go, and I'm matching them to whichever prompt. I'm ignoring the month. Okay, so basically it's 12 books on the reading challenge and 12 books on the cover challenge, but the month is of no consequence to me. I'm simply looking at 1 book per challenge that I have read that fits the prompt. Okay, so for the reading challenge, obviously I've picked this or that, and it is all that we see or see fits that prompt, and I did read that. Okay, and then on the cover challenge, it is Fire and Smoke and Cibola Burn, and there was like a ship burning up on the cover. So I thought that fit perfectly. So those 2 prompts are gone. So hopefully, you know, I can fit something in from whatever I read in February. And again, it's just going to fit in wherever I can fit it in. I'm imagining that when we get down to, like, say, the last 4 months of the year, might be a little hard for me to do that, but we will see how it goes. Okay, so those are all my challenges. Not doing anything else this year, just that. And I think that it works out really well because I can always use a lot of the same books that are on my other 2 challenges in these challenges. So it kind of works out that with whatever I read, that we can fit it in there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to move on to the books that I didn't read that were chosen for my TBR. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now are the books that I didn't get to from my pull for January TBR, and there were unfortunately 4 that I didn't read. So we'll just quickly look at those. So it was Live and Let Chai by Bree Baker, which is just a little cozy mystery, but didn't have time to get to that one. X Marks the Stalker by K.N. Wilder. Now, I really want to read this one. So what I think I might do is I may very well put this automatically on my March one. I'm not going to put it in February for a reason, and that's because I'm still kind of testing out the whole vlogging thing, but I think I might put it in for February. We shall see, because I really want to read this one. So we're going to kind of put that one aside because I'm not going to put it back in the cards, okay, like the others. Then we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I did not get to this one, and it's like, you know what, the card's going to go back in, and whenever I pull it the next time. Now, typically what I try to do is if a book comes up more than once, when it gets pulled, the next time I definitely try to make it a priority to read it. So that's probably what's going to happen with that one. And then the last one is Ask Not by Maureen Callahan, which is a nonfiction. And I do really want to read it. It's actually not that long. It has a ton of biographical stuff at the end. But just, I find with nonfictions, you got to be in the mood for it. And also got to have time, because you really have to hunker down to read it. So I didn't get a chance this time around. But again, if it comes up on my TBR again a second time, then you know it's going to have to get read. So that's the general rule. So that's those 3, okay? And the cards for those 3 are going to go back into my TBR piles for my game, and who knows, but I'm sure they're going to get pulled again, okay? And this one is going to just automatically get put on February, March. At some point in February or March, it's going to get read because I really want to read this one. So that's it for what I didn't read. So now we're going to move on to what I did read, and we're going to talk about the books that I vlogged first. All right, so what we're going to do is now we're going to go over everything I read, but we are going to do kind of a quick synopsis of the books that I vlogged, because there are the vlogs. Now the vlogs are spoiler vlogs, so this is kind of just going to be the non-spoilery version of the book, whether I recommended it, that kind of thing. So the first vlog I did, I had 3 books in, and that was Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, and Dissolution by Nicholas Binge. So those were the 3 that I covered in the first vlog. So the first book was Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, and I actually quite liked this book. Now, I only gave it 3.5 stars, and the reason that I only gave it 3.5 stars was because I did find it a little bit repetitious. I found her actions in the book kind of in the middle of the book. It was like she was a bit of a spoiled brat. Okay. I also found that there wasn't enough of the relationships with the 3 girls, the 3 sisters, in the beginning of the book. I also found that Cleo, who was our main character, and everything was from Cleo's point of view, that her being the only one who went back to the house was kind of, I understood it, but at the same time, the other sisters were just so detached from the whole thing. And meanwhile, how it all transpired was, yeah, I don't want to say anything because I will give it away. So the main characters are Cleo, Lita, and Daphne. So Daphne, those are the sisters. And then there is her dad and his wife Amy, because her dad and mom, their parents were divorced, okay? Was not a pretty divorce. And then there was this guy, Austin, who was the love interest for Cleo in this. So right at the very beginning, first chapter, Cleo gets a phone call. Their mother has died. She died of a heart attack in the house, which they thought nobody went to this house. And they come to find out that their mom was going back there on a regular basis. And Cleo is determined to go back there and fix up the house and sell it and clear the air on what happened with their mom. There was a lot of bad blood between her mom and her dad, their dad, like their parents, when they got divorced. And all the blame fell on the mother. So it was interesting to see how things how Cleo dealt with all those things as they were going through. Now, Austin, who was a kid, he was a guy who was a kid in the neighborhood and was the same age as Cleo. So they actually played together and their moms knew each other. So that kind of comes into play a little bit in the book as well. I mean, I love Rachel Harrison's writing. I think it's really great. I read Such Sharp Teeth first of hers, and I liked that book better. I felt that the relationship that the main character had with the guy in the book kind of made more sense, whereas in this book it was just like almost sex for the sake of sex. And maybe that was because of the immaturity of Cleo, because I think Cleo is like 23, 20. She's under 25. So she's young in this when this happens. So anyways, that's that book. Did like it. Wasn't perfect, but 3.5 stars. And I mean, I have other Rachel Harrison books, and I would completely buy another book from her. So liked it enough for that, right? Next one was Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. I thought it was interesting that both these were Book of the Month, and then the third one was Aardvark. So they're all from the book subscriptions that I purchase from. But anyways, that's not important. But Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. So this is a story about this woman, and she wakes up in the morning to take her child to daycare for the first time. I think the daughter is 9 months old. So she's like, this is her first time away from her. And the mom is going back to work. Her husband is gone. It's like he ghosted her. And she is a little bit upset about that. If, I'm being honest, she's upset. You can tell she's upset, but she keeps making excuses for him. But she keeps messaging him, and he's not messaging her back. So this is all what's occurring right at the very beginning of the book. So anyway, Cam gets them all ready. That's the mom. Camilla is her name, but she goes by Cam. And she gets her and the daughter ready, and she takes the daughter to daycare, which is, again, the first time she's got to leave her there. So she's a little upset that she's doing this by herself. And then she's got to go to work. Now, she is a book editor, and that's how she met her husband, because he was a ghostwriter for somebody. So they have kind of it started as a working relationship, and it kind of, went from there. Well, we get to lunchtime, and she sees there's something going on the TV, and there is a hostage situation at this warehouse. And then all of a sudden, 2 police officers show up, and she finds out that it's her husband holding these 3 people in this warehouse hostage. Okay? And it goes from there. Now, this book is separated into 3 parts. So the first part of the book is everything that happens then. And the thing is that all of the action happens, and then it jumps to 7 years later. So this is where I had a little bit of a problem with the book. Understood the 7-year jump, because there's a reason for it. But at the same time, it just felt a little strange. So the middle of the book kind of held me back from giving it 5 stars, because it was a really good book. I liked the way it was written. I loved the character development in it. Now, what I really liked was that you did have multiple points of view, but the 2 main points of view were Cam and what the hell was his name? Neil. And Neil was the hostage negotiator. Okay, so you're seeing the police side of what's happening through the whole book, and you're seeing her personal journey through the whole book. And I loved that. I thought that was really great. I did also kind of guess a little bit of what was going to happen at the end, but it still surprised me a little bit. So 4 stars. Loved it. Thought it was really great. And I've never read anything from Gillian McAllister again, but I would totally read something from her again in the future, for sure. And then the last book that I read for the vlog was Dissolution by Nicholas Binge. And this was one of the weirdest books I think I've ever read. Okay. So this kind of centers around 3 main characters. Okay. So there's Maggie, who's the wife, Stanley, who's the husband, and Hassan, who is the guy who is kind of trying to get Maggie to get her husband to remember. So this is the whole idea. Now, you have to think that Maggie is in her 80s in this book, and Stanley is in a facility with Alzheimer's. And Hassan is saying that his memory loss is not because of Alzheimer's. It's because he did it to himself on purpose. That's where it goes. Now, this runs under two different timelines. So it runs under the present timeline, which is like current time, okay? And then the past timeline, which I think goes from like 1955 to 1967. I think that's the kind of gap that goes in there. But what's happening is it's kind of a bit of a jumping back and forth. And in the beginning, it's a little bit confusing. It's also a little bit boring because Stanley's chapters are the chapters that are like you're following Stanley from the age of, I think, like 13, 14. I thought a little bit of that was unnecessary. I don't think you needed quite the in-depth study into Stanley's lack of confidence and everything. I think that could have been pared back a little bit. That kind of was boring. The parts with Maggie and Hassan were never boring. They were fantastic. I loved those parts. But then as you got to the middle of the book onwards, more or less, it was fantastic. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Playing Nice, but the issues that I had with it were issues that I couldn't get past it enough to give it more than 3.5 stars, you know? So still a really good book though, and would totally read something again by the same author. In these two cases, Jillian McAllister and Nicholas Finch, I've never read anything from either of them. So these were my first experiences, and I thought they were great. I mean, for me, anything that's 3 stars and more is a good book, and I enjoyed it. And I did enjoy all 3 of those. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the second vlog, which I don't know if it's up yet, but it was the most fun reading. So, and it started with The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman, which is the 4th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Clearly, I enjoyed this. And let me tell you, so for February, I am moving to a 1 book per vlog format, and I wish I had done that with this one. This was so good, okay? Like, just fantastic. 5 stars. It doesn't even need to be said. So the idea is that Carl and his ex-girlfriend's prize cat, Princess Donut, have gone into this dungeon to play a reality show game for these aliens that have basically destroyed Earth. And in this one, we are on level 4. Is it 4? I think it's level 4. Oh my God. It's like, you'd think I would remember that stuff. Yeah, no, 5th floor. Welcome to the 5th floor. Let me think about that. Yeah, that's right. Welcome to the 5th floor. And because the 6th floor, which they're going to next, every 3rd floor is super significant. Something major happens. But the lead up from the 4th floor to this floor, 4th floor was all subway cars, trains, that kind of thing. What happened in that, and leading into this, and going into this, oh my gosh, like this one was just so good. It's like you can't say anything. Now, if you want to watch the spoiler vlog, the vlog has spoilers in it. It goes through the entire plot, okay? We discuss the plot in a little bit of depth, but essentially they get on this planet and they're all separated into these bubbles, and each bubble has 4 quadrants, and the 4 quadrants are land, sea, air, and underground. So that's kind of how it works. And yeah, so they have to defeat these, and then they can move to the next level. So good. That's all I have to say about it. It's like, I love the development, how he develops his characters. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Even the development, like everything that you read in all the books is from Carl's point of view, but you never feel like you're not getting Princess Donut's feelings or Katya's feelings or anything like that. Like you actually really build an emotional attachment to all the characters, even though it's Carl's point of view, right? So, yeah, thoroughly love that so much. Okay, then the second book in the same video is Cibola Byrne by James S.A. Corey. And this was the fourth book in the Expanse series. Now, this was the one I liked the least, but I still gave it 4.5 stars because I still really enjoyed it. What I didn't like about this book is a lot of what I liked about the other books. So this book also has Holden and his crew, and Holden has been sent into space to mediate a situation which comes up from something that results in book 3. So I can't say too much about it. Again, you can watch my vlog. My vlog will have details, but it also has spoilers. So, but there are multiple points of view, just like there are in all the other books. But in this book, I found it a little confusing, and I found that it kind of crossed paths and overlapped in certain places, a little bit too much, and some of the book dragged a bit in the middle. And I think it's because in this particular case, it was a little different in that everything kind of happens more or less in this one location. Yes, there's the ships, but it's in this one very specific location, okay? And that made it a little bit draggy. Okay, so that was what I didn't like about the book, but I liked everything else. I loved the ending. It opens with a prologue centering around a character, Bobby Draper, who was from book 2. Okay, and I knew full well Bobby was going to show up again at some point, and she did, obviously, clearly. But that, I think, foreshadowed something, specifically because of how the book transpired and what happened at the end. And it was like the prologue, they could have lost the prologue. I think it would have been more impactful to get rid of the prologue, because then what happened at the very end would have been a little bit more of a surprise. I'm just going to leave it at that. So that's it for that one. So those are all the books that I had in my vlogs. So now we're going to continue on to what I read that wasn't in a vlog, which actually wasn't all that much. Okay, so when I say everything else, I actually didn't read all that much more. I mean, that's 5 books, and I read 3 others. So one was an ebook, so we're going to deal with that one first, because that was the book that I liked the least. It's called Truth and Tinsel by Maya Alden, and I have read a romance book from her before. You know, I think it was 2.5, 3 stars. This one was 2 stars. It was cliche, it was boring, but it was a fast read. So I did read the whole thing, okay? I can honestly say that after reading this one, I won't read another book that she's written, unfortunately, because the plot on this one was very similar to the previous one. It was basically a married couple. She catches him doing something he shouldn't be doing. She wants a divorce. He gives her the divorce, but then he realizes he still loves her. It was exactly the same plot that it followed in the previous book I read of her, so I won't read another one. Okay? So that was probably my most disappointing read of the month, because the next 2 that I read were very good. So, so the one is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, and it was outside of Dungeon Crawler Carl. the only other 5-star that I gave for the month. And this was just so much fun. Oh my God. I actually think this was my favorite because this is the third one in the series. And previous to that, the first one was my favorite. The second one, I liked it, but the third one, this was just hilariously fun. Okay. So you got Finley and like the usual characters, Finley, Vero, who is the woman who is living with her, who helps her with her kids, her 2 crazy kids, right? And then you've got Stephen, her ex-husband. You have her sister, Georgia, Nick Anthony, who's the detective who likes her, so you've got that too. Then you've got the Russian gangster who plays a role kind of in the background. So you have all that. And who's kind of like blackmailing Finley. Oh my gosh, it's freaking chaos. Okay. But it's controlled chaos, It's like the chaos kind of starts at the beginning and leads its way through. The problem is that you do have to read book 1. This is not, while each book contains what would be called a separate case, okay, which is a separate situation that Finley's gotten herself into, you have to read from the beginning because there is a flow throughout on what's happening to Finley because of what's happened in the previous 2 books. So you do have to do that. That's why I can't give too much away on this one. Suffice to say that somehow Finley and Vero end up having to go to the police academy to go through it's like police training for civilians. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. It was just so good. Oh my God. Loved it so much. And it's like, they're the kind of books that you just don't take seriously. But when you read through a book like this and you come out it and you think, oh my God, that was like so much fun. To me, that's a 5-star read. Absolutely. Then I read All That We See or Seem by Ken Liu, and this is a broken binding edition of the book, and this is a sci-fi thriller. That's how I would. It is not typical, but it was great. Like, I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it, did I give it 4.5 stars? I think I gave it 4.5 stars. And the only reason I gave it 4.5 stars was because it dragged in a few places. That's it. That's the only reason I gave it 4.5 stars. But this was so good. So this is kind of about this young woman by the name of Julia Z, is what she calls herself. And she is a tech person, kind of a bit of a hacker. She has a backstory that she's changed her name. She kind of got caught by the cops with this group of people. This whole backstory, which I enjoyed that very much. It built on her character, but the exact case of where it came up was a guy came looking for her, this older man. He wasn't really old, but I think he's like 40-ish, around there, came looking for her because his wife went missing, okay? And he needed her help because his wife was like an AI dream constructionist. So she would take people into like these AI environments and they would have this dream experience. So that was what she did. And she went missing. And then, of course, there is this guy in the background called the Prince, and he's the bad guy. Okay. It had twists and turns in it I didn't expect. Like, what happened in the beginning and what actually got them moving in this, like with Julia and Pierce, And where that relationship, a friendship, they were friends, where that kind of went, and then where it went with Julia onwards, it was completely unexpected. Now, from what I gather, this is going to be a series that, and I believe it's going to be based around Julia's character, and 100% I would read it again. Okay? Like I said, I gave this 4.5 stars, and I only gave it 4.5 stars because of the bit of the dragging in it, but it was still a fantastic book. Okay? And I loved his character development. I liked his visuals, like how he visualized everything, all the tech part of it. I could totally visualize everything that was happening in this book. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I actually very much look forward to reading another book with the same character in it. So that's it. That's all I read. So I had a pretty good reading month. I just didn't read as many books. And again, I think that's because I was doing the vlogging, and I vlogged like 5 of those books. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for me. And because I don't do audio books, it also makes it different, because I probably could, if I did audiobooks, it would make it a lot faster for me, because the kind of work that I do, like I can talk on the phone to my friend while I'm doing my work. So I probably could, but I just find I don't absorb any details about a book when I do audio books. So that's why I don't do them. And I kind of wish I did, but you know, it just, yeah, it's kind of how it goes, right? But yeah, so that's it for this month. Now, I do have some really great books on tap for February, and it is a short month, unfortunately, so the likelihood is I'm not going to get to all of them, but I'm going to do my best to try to read as many as I can, but I am only probably going to vlog like 2 of them. And one of them is, and good, actually, you know what? I'm going to keep it a surprise. It's going to be a surprise. Yeah. So I'm going to cut it off at there. And yeah, so that's it for this one. Now, I did post a video where I'm asking for some help. It's a video that says help, you know, celebrating 1,500 subscribers, which I did reach. And it is just asking for, somebody said, do a question and answer when you hit 1,500 subscribers. I love that idea. So I need questions. So if you can post the questions either under that particular video, which I will link that video below, okay, or if you can post it in my community section, which is open for posts, then that would be great. You know, either one of the two, just so that we can kind of keep the questions in those 2 places. That would be perfect for me. And yeah, that's it for this video, and we'll see you next time around.